الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, with the New Year's just passing by, one common discussion that everyone is having right now is, what's your New Year's resolution? What are you planning to do with this new year in your life? The idea is very beautiful because with every day we live, with every minute we live, with every year we live, we should be constantly looking for ways to improve ourselves, how we can become a better version of ourselves. Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi gives this analogy where he says the human body and the human being should treat himself like a business. A person that has a business, there are some things that he's always looking out for, things that she's always looking out for. If those things are found and they're available, they feel that their business is successful. Otherwise, they would question. If a person has a business and they see that this year's profit was less in comparison to last year's profit, they sit down and ask themselves why. No person is content with taking loss year after year. Similarly, let alone loss, people are not even willing to accept the same return as the previous year this year. If a person has the same return for 5 years straight, 6 years straight, and they're selling something, they're doing a business, they ask themselves, why aren't we growing? What do we need to do to make our practices better, to make our environment better, to make our product better, to make our procedures better? As human beings, we're constantly looking for more and more and more when it comes to our dunyawi gains. Therefore, Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi says, you should also treat your ukhrawi gains similarly, the gains that relate to your hereafter. You should not be happy that your today was worse spiritually than your yesterday. You shouldn't be happy that your today was equal to yesterday. Every day of yours should lead you to becoming a better version of yourself. Now, when we talk about New Year's resolution, people usually use New Year's as a moment to make resolutions, first and foremost because it's the marking of a new year. There's a new part of your life that apparently you're stepping into. But the most common resolution that people focus on when it comes to New Year's revolves around losing weight, becoming healthier, going to a gym, taking on a membership. And this is a very interesting thing because it seems as if all of the guilt that people bear on their conscience towards the end of the year with the festivities that just keep coming one after the other, after the other, after the other, they come to a point that's so dark and heavy and unhealthy that they say now it's time for us to gain that energy and courage and make a promise that I will be a better version of myself. Enough is enough. And I feel that spiritually many of us are probably in a similar place, where because the festivities were here, because we had breaks and holidays, people were thinking, oh, it's a break, it's okay. I'll be lazy on my salah, I'm on vacation. I'll be lazy here, I'll be lazy there. It's okay if I don't read Quran. I'm visiting my family, I'm going to visit, a friend. So we become very lazy. We begin to think that our vacation is also a vacation from our deen. Now, this new year comes and people are focusing on how they can become a healthier version of themselves. You'll find an increase in gym membership. Everyone's signing up to the gym because they're telling themselves, I can do it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Actually, it's a very good thing. Even if you feel that you may fail in the process, there's nothing wrong with making an intention and trying your best. Because you never know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may use that effort of yours as an opportunity to bring that change that you long for. The thing about change is that if you want it, you have to first and foremost be willing to receive it. You have to desire it. Then you have to work for it. And after working, you have to grind away and stick with istiqamah, keep doing it again and again and again, and not give up. One of the most important things about change is something the scholars refer to as tajdeedun niyyah, which means every so often reminding yourself and renewing your intention why you're doing what you're doing. Why do I need to do this? What's the purpose behind me doing this? Therefore, you'll see people watching these motivational videos on YouTube and listening to motivational sound bites on their podcasts, constantly reminding them that you can do it, you can do it, that Rocky moment, that you can do it as well. Keep pushing yourself, keep going. The same thing applies with your spiritual growth too. You need constant reminders. That's why in the deen, there is so much emphasis placed on the fada'il of a'mal, the virtues of deeds. Always reading them, reminding yourself that yes, what I'm doing right now is difficult. Just like the person who's going to the gym, it's very difficult for them. Going to the gym is not an easy task. You know, you're putting yourself through difficulty, you're enduring the task of working out and lifting and running or whatever it is that you're doing there. But you keep doing it because in your mind or on your wall at home you have this image of the physique that you're trying to accomplish. The same goes with yourself spiritually. You have to keep motivating yourself and telling yourself the benefit of what you're doing. Otherwise, if you don't keep reminding yourself of the good that you will get out of the good that you do in the masjid and for your spiritual self, it's very easy for you to give up. There are many books written on the chapter of Fadail al-A'mal, the book of good deeds. The most famous of them is a book by Al-Mundhiri, rahimahullah ta'ala. What's his name?
Al-Mundhiri.
Al-Mundhiri. He is one of the top muhaddithun of the past. He wrote a book which is also published in 2 volumes, it's published in 4 volumes. 4 volumes is a common one. And you can also find, I have one copy of the book, that all 4 volumes are in one thick, massive volume. The name of this book is At-Targhib wa Tarhib. What's the name of this book? At-Targhib. Targhib means like encouragements, motivations. So what he does in this book is that he brings all the chapters that you would typically find in a book of hadith or a book of fiqh. What those chapters look like are the chapters of wudu, the chapters of salah, the chapters of zakat, things that relate to your spiritual life, your spiritual growth, the commands in the Quran, the commands of the Prophet ﷺ. He'll also go into mu'asharat, he'll go into mu'amalat, your social life, your business life. He talks about all these different chapters. And for each discussion, for example, the chapter on transactions, Kitab al-Buyu', he'll start off by bringing the riwayat related to targhib, and then he brings the riwayat related to tarhib. Targhib, he'll bring those narrations that encourage this act, the virtue of engaging in trade, the virtue of being an honest business person, the virtue of accepting a return while in a transaction. There's actually a virtue just for this. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the virtue of a person who has a business. They sell something, the person that buys it goes home, he returns back and says, I don't want this product, I would like for you to take the product back and give me my money. Now Islamically, the person who sold the product is in no obligation of accepting the return. Do you guys understand? The person who sold the product, he's in no obligation of accepting the return. That's why you'll find in majority of the world, return policies are not really a thing. People don't accept returns because every transaction is final. The only time a person is mandated to accept the return is if there is a shart of khiyar in there, which is a lengthier discussion that I won't go into. There has to be a condition, that I need this many days, or I can return it once I see the product, I can return it once I touch the product, khiyar ru'ya, and so on. The Prophet ﷺ is telling the companions that when you sell something, you are not obligated to accept the return. However, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you do so, that'll be a sign of you being kind to the other person, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you X, Y, and Z in return. Targhib, a motivation, an encouragement. There was one Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ who opened up a store, and he was in the market and he traded with people for an extended period. Some riwayat say it was years that he was trading with people, dealing with people. And then one day, all of a sudden, he closed his store and vacated his little area where he did business from. Someone asked him, why did you leave all of a sudden? You were doing well, your business was good. He said, well, I only opened up that business and engaged in the act of trade because I wanted to benefit from this virtue and this promise of the Prophet ﷺ. Nabi ﷺ promised Jannah for the one who accepted a return. So I opened the store just with this intention, and it took 2 years for someone to come back with a return. His product must have been really good. He said, as soon as I got that return, I gained the virtue, I closed the store down, I went back to doing what I was doing before in my life. So this is the first type of narrations Imam al-Mundhiri, rahmatullahi alayhi, Hafid al-Mundhiri, rahmatullahi alayhi, brings in his book, At-Targhib. Then he brings narrations that are from the category of tarheeb. Anyone know what the word tarheeb means?
Making it fearful.
Scaring off.
Warnings, cautions, warning people that if you deal and have haram transactions, these are the warnings. He then brings the warnings as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran describes the Prophet ﷺ as one who brought glad tidings to people. And the scholars, they say those glad tidings were in the form of virtues. Those glad tidings of the Prophet ﷺ, that mubashir, those were the glad tidings of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran on this exact same point of renewing your intentions and motivating yourself periodically again and again. He says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. All those who believe, be conscious of Allah and be with righteous people. The scholars, they say the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying be conscious of Allah and be with righteous people, because when you're with righteous people, their presence, their companionship will help you become conscious. It's as if one is necessary for the second. You need to be in the companionship of righteous people in order to become righteous yourself. What's the benefit of being with good people? They are a constant reminder. Their presence is a constant reminder of what you need to be, what you should be, how you become a better version of yourself. Just as when you're at work, you see other people, other physicians, other professionals, other IT experts, and you look at that person and say, I want to be that guy right there. You're motivated by that person's skill. Because as a human being, when you see people who are better than you, greater than you, more motivated, more driven than you look at them and you take inspiration. But how sad is it that most of us have role models when it comes to everything in the world? You think of food, you think of Gordon Ramsay. You think of, working out, you have someone in your mind. You think of cars, you have someone in your mind. Like everyone has someone in their mind that they look up to for everything, but when it comes to their deen, they aren't looking up to anyone. This is why it's so important to make a relationship with the Quran. As we talk about our New Year's resolution, one of the things that I always encourage, yes, it's very important to physically work on yourself, and I believe this. It's very important to be healthy. As a believer, we have to understand, brothers and sisters, that being healthy is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Being strong is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi has a lengthy passage in which he talks about the harms of being unhealthy. He talks about how it creates laziness in a person, how it slows down the thinking process, how a person, when they begin to become unhealthy, the only thing that's on their mind is food. As soon as they finish one meal, what are they thinking about? The next meal. They wake up in the morning, first thing they say is, what's for breakfast? They come back from work, rather than saying, honey, how are you doing? The first thing they say is, what's for lunch? They come back from the masjid, what's for dinner? And as soon as they finish dinner, they haven't even gotten up from the table, hey, what are you planning to make tomorrow? It's just junoon, it's just madness, constantly thinking about food and food and food. That's why Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, during his khilafah, he saw a man who was overweight. There was a man that was a little heavy. Umar radiallahu anhu went to him and tapped his stomach and said, Ma hada ya rajul? What is this, O man? What is this? So he said, Hada rahmatullah. This is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kind of give him a little tap and said, this is the mercy of Allah. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu said, Bal hada adabullah. This is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I want to make one thing very clear. We're not talking about people who have illnesses or some sort of a condition they're dealing with. For that is a mercy of Allah, and you will find your forgiveness in that illness. We're talking about people who induce this state on themselves out of their own doings, out of their own will, because of their own greed. When I look at the issue of being unhealthy, I find a lot of it boiling down to two spiritual diseases. Two spiritual diseases. One is not being able to control your greed, a lot of greed. You want to find out your control or lack of control over your greed. See while you're having a meal if you can just stop eating. You had 2 bites, can you stop? Or is the desire to take a second plate, a third plate, a fourth plate, even more? I was once visiting a teacher in a sheikh. I say teacher because I've benefited from him as well. He's a young scholar. I visited him and he hosted us for food. I had a little food. He then said to me, Hussain, take seconds. Man thanna dakhal al-jannah. Whoever takes seconds will go to Jannah. So I said to him, لِأَنَّهُ يَمُوتُ سَرِيعًا, because he'll die more quickly as well. Otherwise, this idea of dealing with your greed is something that's very important. It's at the center of our deen. Always wanting more. There was a young lady, she came to me. She was, I won't say newly married, she was married for some years. And she says to me, Sheikh, I'm just fed up with my in-laws. I can't do it anymore. I said, what happened to you? Why are you so frustrated? You've been married for so many years. You've been a very happy sister. I know you. She said, well, my mother-in-law came over this weekend and I cooked this meal for her and she was very angry. She was offended by the meal I cooked. I said, what did you do in the meal? Did you add too much salt? Did you spell out a bad word on top of the lasagna? What did you do? How did you offend this person? So she says, well, my mother-in-law was upset that I only made rice and a chicken curry. And she said to me, if I really wanted to respect them, in addition to rice, I would have made bread as well. In addition to the chicken curry, I would have made some meat curry and also some vegetable as well. So all the options are available. SubhanAllah. Look at the level of the greed of the insan. Look at the greed of the insan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the story of Banu Israel to us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the best of foods, and what did they say to Allah? We want to change a menu. We're not happy with this, we want something different, we want something new. So the first big issue that comes down to, that it boils down to spiritually, is this idea of greed. That's why a person that can truly control their diet, I believe that person has the ability to spiritually take themselves very far, because they've created discipline in themselves. They've learned to say, no, I won't do it. And if you can be honest with yourself like that and control your own affairs like that, you have a bright future. The second thing is takassul. The second thing that makes people very unhealthy is laziness. They're just not motivated, they're not driven. They give into their qasam too much. And this is one of the things the Prophet ﷺ repeatedly asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect him from. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ajzi wal-qasam. Ajz is inability. You're just not doing anything. And kasal is laziness. Ajz is, usually when the word ajz is used, it's used when a person doesn't do something because of something that's not in their control. Ajz is when a person doesn't do something because of what? It's out of their control. I'm ajiz, meaning I'm not able to do it. I don't have the ability to do it. It's beyond me. So the Prophet ﷺ is making dua to Allah, Ya Allah, don't put me in a position where I can't do something because it's out of my control. Allow me to always be able to do something. Make me qadir as opposed to ajiz. These are opposites of one another. And the second thing, a'udhu bika min al-kasal. Save me from being lazy. And this is when a person doesn't do something out of whose will in doing? Their own. They have the full ability to get up and pray salah. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. They have full ability to get up and pray, but they won't pray because I just want to sit on the sofa a little longer. It feels so good. I want to eat some more popcorn. It's two things, I'm telling you. If we take control over them, there's so much that we can do with our health. And for those people that think that, being healthy is not a part of Islam. Islam is about tasbih, it's about miswak, it's about leather socks, it's about imama, it's about doing sujood and tahajjud prayer. That's also not true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum. Deen is not just a religion, even though that's how we constantly translate it. Deen is a way of life. The word deen refers to what? It's a lifestyle. And this is a poisonous disease because many of us, we think that our religious obligations are limited to the four walls of the masjid. We don't realize that Islam is a way of life. The way we dress, the way we talk, the way we travel, the way we wake up, how we have control over our schedule, what we eat, what we don't eat, the ethics and morality that we carry in ourselves. This is all a part of Islam. This is Al-Yawma Akmaltu Lakum Deenakum. I find it amazing that Muslims talk about the Prophet ﷺ's character very regularly, and that's a very beautiful thing, while equally neglecting the Prophet ﷺ's physical state. What kind of healthy person he was. You have Ma'bad radiallahu anha, who's describing the Prophet ﷺ. The most famous narrations that we have regarding the physical description of the Prophet ﷺ, there's so many of them. Ma'bad radiallahu anha, you have Hassan radiallahu anhu that he narrates from Ali radiallahu anhu. Then you have the narration of Hind bin Abi Hala. This was the son of Khadija radiallahu anha from a previous marriage. Abu Hala was his father. Hind bin Abi Hala. He's the one who describes the Prophet ﷺ. Now you look at the example of Ma'bad radiallahu anha. Ma'bad radiallahu anha is describing the physique of the Prophet ﷺ. And she's talking about this man, Sawa al-Sadri wal-Batn, who's very healthy and strong. وَعِيدَ مَا بَيْنَ الْمَنْكِبَيْنِ وَعَالَ الصَّدْرِ. Very strong and broad and healthy person, you know. His chest and stomach are in line, which is again a sign of being healthy. And what age is she describing the Prophet ﷺ at? 53, during Hijrah. She saw the Prophet during when? Hijrah. She's not describing the Prophet ﷺ when he's playing on the basketball team and he's 25 years old or 23 years old when he's schooling people on the court. That's not when she's talking about the Prophet. She's talking about the Prophet ﷺ when he's 53 years old. Because for the Prophet ﷺ, being healthy wasn't just an idea of impressing people or finding a good spouse to get married to or an appearance. That's not what it was about. Everything he did had ihsan. It was about a greater purpose. This is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need this energy because, and then all the reasons that followed beneath. This is why I need to be healthy. This is why I need to be strong. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu said to this person, بَلْ هَذَا عَذَابُ اللَّهِ. This is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he explained and said the things that Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi reflects over. He says that when a person eats a lot, it makes them lazy, it slows them down, it turns them away from ibadah, they become slow in life, they start neglecting their responsibilities. There are many things that they should be doing, but physically because they're limited, they're not able to do those things anymore. Being healthy is very, very important in our deen. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, the worst vessel an insan can fill up is which vessel?
His stomach.
His stomach. So much research is coming up right now about how to be healthier, how to control your appetite. They have these balloons and surgeries that are occurring where they're cutting off a part of the stomach, getting people to cut down and minimize how much food they take in. There was a person that I met. He was a foodie. Yeah, he was a foodie. Like this guy was a foodie. This is what he did for a living. He blogged food. He went through the Middle East and traveled and traveled and traveled and had a Snapchat and he would go around, eat here, eat there, and all the dessert. And you can imagine when this person's eating so much, what's going to happen? He started getting unhealthy. And he had to continue his job while he had no control over his greed. We had this conversation face to face, by the way. He said, I had to continue my job, but I couldn't control my greed. And I realized the only way for me to do this was for me to have a surgery. And I believe either he had his stomach snipped, is that the right word?
Yes, sleeve, gastric sleeve.
That may be it, yeah. One of those, a sleeve. He had some surgery performed where they cut out a part of his stomach, And then he was telling me, subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the worst vessel a person can fill is their stomach. And if you must eat, then have a few morsels. No, when a person eats, he should have a few morsels to keep his spine straight, meaning the purpose of eating is to give you energy to continue. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, if a person must eat, then he should dedicate 1/3 of his stomach to food, one third to drink, and 1/3 to for his breathing. And our state, unfortunately, the state of our greed again, is such that once we're done eating, you lie down, you can't even turn left or right because it hurts. That stomach is making a dua against you at that time. Ya Allah, why am I being punished by this person? This is the level of greed that unfortunately people have. The Prophet ﷺ, you see again and again, when he talks about dua, he connects it to what we eat. There's a companion by the name of Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas. What's his name? He's from the 10 companions promised paradise. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas. He came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Messenger of Allah, make dua to Allah that I become one of those people whose every dua is accepted. Does that sound like an awesome request?
Yeah.
Make dua, I become one of those people whose every dua is accepted. What was the response of the Prophet? Before you say, think. Stop for a moment. If someone came to you and said, make dua, or show me a pathway that I can do something that will make every one of my du'as accepted, what would you do? What would I do? If it was me, I would say, go for Hajj. Allah will accept all of your du'as. I would say that, read 100,000 Qur'ans. Like something really massive and great, Do this and then Allah will accept all of your du'as. What was the Prophet's response? Atib mat'amak. That's it. Only one thing he said. He said one thing to Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu. He said, Atib mat'amak takun mustajab ad-da'wah. That purify what you eat. What you're eating, purify it. Make sure what you're eating is wholesome and it's clean and it's pure. And then watch how your du'as are accepted with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that I've observed, by the way. In my limited time as serving in the Muslim community, many people, not all, this doesn't apply everywhere, but I'm just saying from some observation that I've made. Many people who accept Islam, if you sit with them and talk with them about incidents that led them to becoming Muslim and any changes they made, you'll find many of them, they made some sort of an adjustment to their diet. Like for example, there was one person I met recently, he just decided not to eat pork anymore. And very soon after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened his heart to Islam. There was a person I met who stopped consuming alcohol for health reasons, for his own health purposes. And then he says, my heart just opened up to Islam. There was another person that I met, a sister in our community this year. She decided to fast in Ramadan. No reason why. Her friend was doing it. Her friend said, why don't you join me? This sister, this lady in the community said, sure, I'll join you. She joined her. She fasted the whole month of Ramadan. She made that adjustment in her food, and what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there was a spiritual occurrence. Something changed. Something changed within the body. And remember this, always remember this. That it's important for us to take care of this body that we have. And the more we take care of it, the healthier and better we keep it, the more pure and wholesome we feed it, the greater the impact you'll see in your life. I'll share a story with you guys, a personal one. When I was in madrasa, memorizing the Quran, I was young at the time, maybe 8, 9 years old. I was horrible at memorizing. Very, very, very bad. It was so bad that I recall one time my mother came to drop me off to the madrasa. It was in New York. So she was dropping me off there from Kentucky. And when she was dropping me off, she bumped into my sheikh on the way down, on the way up. We were coming upwards, he was coming down of the staircase outside the masjid. He was just finishing his prayer, we were going into the masjid. So the sheikh, he saw me next to my mother. I think it was the first time he ever saw my mother. He said to her, are you his mother? She said, yes. He called her aside and they had a conversation. I was there listening. And he said to my mother that I think you should remove your child from the hifz program. He's struggling too much. Maybe there are other things that he could work on right now because you don't want to scar him and make this part of his life miserable, and he attaches the misery to the memorization of the Quran. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, it was a very good plea that he had. My mother, she was, someone that accepted Islam. She only had one desire, one dream, which was that her child becomes Hafiz. So she said to my sheikh that, give him one more chance. So my sheikh said to my mother that I'm willing to give him 1,000,000 chances. I'm not giving up on him. I just don't think that this is good for him. She said, give him one more chance. Please. I'll talk to him, we'll work hard, we'll do it. So my sheikh said, okay. So my mother asked him, what can I do to help him memorize the Quran? Help him get better? My sheikh at that time, I remember this because I was standing there listening. It was at nighttime. Right after Isha Salah, he had just finished and he was going. He said to my mother, you want your child to improve in his memory, in his memorization? You need to do this. You need to make sure what he eats is absolutely tayyib. Forget halal for a moment. We're not talking about engaging in haram. What are we talking about right now? That which is absolutely pure, unaltered. Just the purest food that you can find, that you can lay your hands on, as expensive as it is, feed it to him. I kid you not, within a few weeks, there was just this cloud over my head that just went away. I had memorized 7 juz in 3 years, and I memorized 23 juz in 6 months. There was like this opening, the shah salat, like there was an opening of the heart at the time, where I felt my memory had now become clear, my brain that was fogged was now opened up. There was also a motivation for me to hear my mother struggling and crying in front of my sheikh. Like there were multiple factors that played in. And I benefited from this directly myself. That's why it's very important that we do watch over ourselves. I think the point that I want to make is this, from today's khatara. When we talk about New Year's resolutions, there's a lot of focus on the body. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think that's a very good thing. But make sure that your focus for being healthier is meaningful and it's purposeful. Not just shallow and meaningless like, I want to get healthier so I look better when I go to Cancun for my next vacation. Because I'm going to have to walk around shirtless. You don't have to walk around shirtless. You shouldn't walk around shirtless. But that's the motivation that people have, I want a beach body. I want to be healthier when I go on my vacation. I'm going to get married, so I want to make sure that dress really fits me. Fits me. Like it squeezes the breath out of me. That's one motivation that people have. That shouldn't be your motivation. That could be a factor that you consider. I mean, you can have whatever intention you want. But there should be a higher purpose, a higher goal. And remember this, that when you have a sound body, a healthy body, that will facilitate your spiritual growth. In Arabic they say, قَلْبٌ سَلِيم فِي جِسْمٍ سَلِيم. What do they say? قَلْبٌ سَلِيم فِي جِسْمٍ سَلِيم. Which means a sound body, قَلْبٌ سَلِيم. A sound heart will exist in a sound body. Right? Being healthy, being wholesome, being pure. There is a spiritual connection between the two. That's why Allah is telling us in Ramadan, stop eating, I'll give you taqwa. Isn't it clear? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Stop eating, I'll give you taqwa. There is this connection between the two. Controlling what you eat, how much you eat, the purity of what you eat, and the taqwa, the spiritual benefit that comes from it. And the second point that I want to make so the first thing is being purposeful. If you're planning to take on some crazy diet or some massive change, I want you to be purposeful. Don't just do it because everyone's doing it because gym memberships are cheap. Because that motivation won't last too long. And it's very superficial. Create purpose in yourself. Someone may say that I want to be healthy, so tomorrow when I have children, I'm able and I'm strong to play with them, so I can enjoy them and they can enjoy me. That's a very good intention. I want to be healthy, I want to eat healthy and be good, so that way I can live long to see my kids. Most kids, by the way, I'm telling you, by the time they turn 14 and 15, their parents are not able. And I don't mean disabled, but they're not functional. They can't play basketball with them, they can't play soccer with them, and that's a language that kids understand. They're not sure if they can ask their dad to go to the mall with them or go to the zoo with them because they're not sure if this person can walk that long without hurting his legs or hurting his body in some way. So create good intentions. The second thing is, when you're looking for spiritual growth, look for physical growth. When you're looking for physical growth, look for spiritual growth. The two are not mutually exclusive. Rather, to the opposite of that, the two are connected. Right? So when you're thinking, and I'm telling you, when you're working out, for some of you this may not make any sense, but it's a good time to do some dhikr, do some reflection. While instead of listening to loud music that's just blowing your ears out, and again, meaningless, wasting that time, use it as a moment to reflect. The Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in, there are narrations that tell us that they engaged in training exercises in the masjid. They engaged in, what did I say? Training exercises in the masjid, purposeful. They're digging out the well, the trench around Medina Munawwara. Are they listening to crazy loud gym music, sexually arousing gym music, or are they digging out the trench around Medina while Allahumma la aisha illa al-aisha al-akhirah, Allahumma ighfir lil ansara wal muhajira. This is what they're saying. While they're digging it out, they're singing this Allah. Allahumma la aisha illa al-aisha al-akhirah. Oh Allah, true joy, true life will be in the akhirah. Allahumma ighfir lil ansara wal muhajira. The Prophet was saying this. Oh Allah, forgive the ansar, forgive the muhajirun. And there are many examples like this. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us all to have good intentions. Allows us to repeat and renew our intentions. To keep us in the company of people who will influence us to make good intentions. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to take control over our heart and our body. May our heart be in our control. May our body be in our control. I'm going to say one last thing before I close, actually, because I think this is very relevant. I feel like a lot of the blame of unhealthy people in our community, this is a very rough statement that I'm about to make, and I don't want to offend anyone. That's not my intention of the statement. My intention behind the statement is to say what I feel, and what I feel is a big problem. A lot of unhealthy kids in our community, honestly, the parents are responsible. It's a very rough statement. And some of us may be greatly offended by it too. But I'm telling you, so many kids in the community, as they grow older, when they feel unhealthy and they feel just very gutted and nasty, they point their fingers at their parents. Because when I was young, you didn't train me with good eating habits. You didn't give me good food to eat. In the world that we live in today in particular, not just here, in the Muslim world as well. I went to Saudi Arabia for Umrah once, and the hotel did not include the food in that particular package. The hotel wasn't providing a meal. When I was going from restaurant to restaurant trying to find food, I couldn't find a good meal. I couldn't find a meal that wasn't doused in oil. There was fried chicken and fries everywhere I went, you know? And all the food was shawarma. There wasn't a good meal. There was no place where I can go and say, oh gosh, I just had a Chipotle. I'm not saying Chipotle is good. I'm not promoting it either. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I didn't have a meal that was somewhat balanced in its nutrients. It was just ketchup, and I was eating a lot of fried food, and I was eating burgers and bread, and it wasn't quality food. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable for this as parents. What do we feed our kids? Constant chocolate and candy and junk food and drinks. There was one kid that came to me and he was telling me, he goes, Mufti Kamani, I drink a lot of orange juice. I said, that's not good for you. He said, what do you mean it's not good for me? Orange juice is good. I said, well, I understand there are nutrients in there. Do you know how much sugar is in this Tropicana drink you're drinking here? You know the Tropicana drink, that orange juice that people drink every morning thinking they're doing something very healthy? It almost has the same number of sugar, grams of sugar in there, that a can of Coke has. Now you can say it's healthier sugars, and I'll probably say, yes it is, but sugar is still sugar. Do you guys understand? Like, it's still sugar. You shouldn't be having that much sugar. Regardless of where it comes from, that needs to be in moderation. There's a reason why all of this much juice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala naturally distributed this much juice between 50 oranges. Because you weren't supposed to have all of these at once. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala packaged it for you. This is how much sugar is good for you. In an apple, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala packaged it for you. This is how much apple is good for you. In a mango, He packaged it for you. That this is how much mango is good for you. Now when you take 50 mangoes and put them together and say, oh, it's mango, that doesn't count. That's not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it for you. You know? So there's a lot more to talk about, but I feel that as parents, we have to take the lead in guiding our children. There's so much research out there on the mental effects, the psychological effects that eating a lot of sugar has on kids. On the effects that eating genetically modified food has on kids. You know, everyone here has a bottle of ketchup at home, I'm assuming. Yes or no?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, everyone has ketchup. What's like the second ingredient on a ketchup bottle?
Sugar.
Not just sugar. Yeah, high fructose corn. High fructose corn syrup. You know, high fructose corn syrup has to be probably one of the worst things that we as human beings consume. One of the worst things. They ran tests on rats, and these rats lost their fertility. They became sexually dysfunctional. You know, not only that, but they weren't able to bear children anymore by eating high fructose corn syrup. They had rats that were mentally disabled after eating large amounts and large quantities of high fructose corn syrup. And we're just stuffing this in our kids. Hey, you want some high fructose corn syrup? And squirting all over their sandwich. Eat some more, eat some more, eat some more. And we're wondering why do we have things like ADHD? And why do we have so many challenges that our kids are facing? Because we're stuffing their body with things. You know, in America, the foods that we eat here are just absurd. I'm telling you, it's absurd. There was a food blogger. This name isn't too good. I don't like even saying her name, but I'm going to say it anyway as a reference point. She's a famous food blogger. Her name is Food Bait. That's not a good name, I know. But I didn't choose the name. She chose it. Okay? So she did some years back. Do you guys remember her expose on Subway? Did anyone see it here? Oh gosh. I know you guys probably think I'm the weirdo. But her research is actually very influential, by the way. I'll tell you how influential it is. She did a blog post on the ingredients within Subway bread. She did a blog post on what? An investigative research into the ingredients in Subway bread. And she uncovered that in America, in the Subway bread, they use a particular ingredient that is used for rubber. It's used for tires. They use it in tires. It's illegal for human beings to consume that ingredient in the entire world except for 2 countries. And one of the 2 countries is where? Al-Sharif, Al-Haram, mashallah. America. And her blog post was picked up by all the major news media outlets. And because of which, within 24 hours, or 48 hours, it was a very short window, I recall this, a very short window, Subway redacted that ingredient, removed that ingredient from their bread. That from now on, we won't be using this bread anymore because their sales took a massive hit and there was this uproar from people. This is the sort of food that we're eating. You know, have you guys ever heard of this thing that M&Ms are okay except for the red one? You guys ever heard of that statement growing up? You can eat M&Ms except for the red one. And this is not a fatwa gathering. This is not a haram gathering. I'm just trying to get you to reflect. I did not just say Subway is haram, for anyone who misunderstood me. I did not say that. I'm just talking about the absurdity that the food industry is engaging in and how we're being tools. We're being played in this. We're being used as tools. That statement actually, I'm not saying there's a fiqh ruling based on this. I'm just saying it's not just a silly statement. Someone will think, oh, M&Ms are okay except for the red one. That sounds really dumb. It's not dumb, actually. There's a reason behind that. Anyone know why?
Type of dye that they use.
Yeah. Because most foods in America that have a red or pink color to them, including most of the juices out there, there's a dye they use. And that dye is extracted, it's called carmine. That dye is extracted from, anyone know where?
Blood. Blood.
Blood, no. Alhamdulillah. One of those moments I got happy, it's not extracted from blood. That would really suck. From beetles. From where? Beetles. If you search on the 10 or 15 most disgusting things Americans consume, you'll find this there. It's called carmine. What they do is, they take beetles, they crush them, the shell, and they extract the color from there, and they put it into color, for color. Red or purple color. It's not purple, sorry, pink coloring. That's the color they extract from there. Again, this is not a fatwa I'm giving you. I'm not saying it's haram for the 10th time. Right? I'm just saying this, I'm raising a concern. This is a concern. In America, most of our breads, and this is where it gets very dark, but it's important for us to know, we can't live in denial. We can't act like it doesn't exist. Most of the breads in America, what does it consist of? What's a common ingredient in most breads? And I'm talking about like 90% of the breads you'll find out there. Yeast. There's an ingredient called yeast, of course.
Flour, white flour.
L-cysteine? Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a very common ingredient. It's almost in all the breads that you can find. L-cysteine is it's derived from nails and hair. Where is it derived from? Nails and hair.
Stop eating everything.
I told you, it's gonna get scary. I told you straight. Look, I'm not gonna deny it. I'm not denying it. I'm not saying. I told you openly. It's gonna get scary, and I'm not promoting that. I'll wrap it together in a moment just to make sure no one walks away with paranoia, because I don't want that. But I know many people don't talk about these things from the podium sitting here because they feel like, oh gosh, my life sucks now. It's all over. I can't eat anything anymore. And obviously our life revolves around food, so that would really suck. You know? I mean, if someone told you, oh, there's no more masjid in your community, you're like, oh, that's okay, I can still pray at home. But if someone said there's no longer, you can't have bread anymore, oh gosh, throw that imam out. I mean, I can live without a masjid, I can never live without bread though. You see our priorities? But that's another story.